and welcome. Welcome to the Blessed Podcast, where we join Jesus, where he is already at work, where we live, learn, work, and play. At Love KC, we believe that every person should hear the good news of Jesus from a friend. If that's going to happen, it will take all of us. The letters BLESS in the Blessed Podcast stand for begin with prayer, listen to God and to those around you, eat together, serve, and share. Share your story and share his story. As always, we have free resources to help you live on mission at our website, lovekc.net, and there you can find upcoming events. We interview a wide range of people on the Blessed Podcast, well-known authors, speakers, and leaders, plus everyday people, because we want you to meet those you might not get to meet on your own, and we want you to be able to identify with someone a lot like you. Our podcasts drop the 15th and 30th of the month. Thanks for listening. Please subscribe and share. Now let's jump into this episode of the Blessed Podcast with your host, Gary Kendall, and co-host, Samantha Lane Krebs.
Well, welcome to the Blessed Podcast, where we join Jesus where he's already at work. And we're glad that you're jumping in here and looking for ways that we as followers of Jesus can live on mission. We pick people who are illustrations of that in the way that they live their life. And then we hope and pray that each one of us will begin to stir up that which God has put inside of us for love and good deeds and find our places of ministry and maybe get some new ideas or even some new partnerships along the way. So today we welcome Porsche Seals from Caring for Kids. Welcome, Porsche.
Good morning, Gary. How are you?
I'm good. We're really looking forward to this time with you today. And for those of you who are jumping in, I want to encourage you to share the podcast with others, so you can like and you can share, you can subscribe. You can find it on iTunes. You can find it on your Google Play. You can find it in our Facebook group. That's Love KC Living on Mission. All of those ways are ways that you can be a part of the story, and we encourage you to do that. So, Porsche, we look forward to talking to you today and letting you tell us more about what you're doing in Kansas City with Caring for Kids.
Yeah, thanks for having me. So good to be here with you. Easy to hang out with friends.
Absolutely. And we have a good friendship, and it's getting deeper and richer every day. So thank you so much, Porsche, for who you are and what you do. I thought it might be fun to kind of start out a little bit with asking the question, well, who is Porsche Seals? Some people may know you as a leader. They see you up front, but they might not know so much about you or your family. So let's start there. I think that's a great place to begin.
Well, I am a Kansas City native. I have lived here my entire life. Grew up right in Midtown, off of Forest and off 27th Street. So live right here in Kansas City now. My husband and I, Stephen Seals, we've been married over 20 years now. We've got 4 kids. We reside in Raytown. And I say kids, but the girls are pretty grown and my son's all right behind them. So they're not littles anymore. But we worship at River's Edge Fellowship in Raytown, where I lead worship and assist in youth ministry and any other place where I'm needed. And my husband's a youth pastor, and I jokingly and affectionately call my father Pastor Daddy. So I'm a PK. Shout out to all the PKs out there. I
love your dad. He's a great guy.
Yeah. So we've been serving in the community we live in for just about as long as we've been married, for about 19 years now. Deeply invested in our community and just love the Lord and love what he's allowed us to do. I was a stay-at-home mom for 13 years, so was able to really take some roots in community, just volunteering and hanging out in community with others that, are raising kids. So that's really me.
That's exciting. It sounds like God prepared you ahead of time for the work of Caring for Kids, even with the job in ministry, which now you really have two jobs, right? Your job in ministry and then your job at caring for kids, but also as a mom and with kids in school, he prepared you for the work that you're doing now with caring for kids. So tell us about that calling. How did it happen that you went from being a stay-at-home mom who had a job in ministry to serving now at caring for kids in the position you're in?
Sure. Yeah. I actually have always had a passion for helping others and a little bit of a justice mindset, even as a little girl, always noticing when things are not right or when it's not fair, and you can't treat people that way. And so as we grew older and we moved where we live now, I always wanted to be the kind of neighbor that my grandmother was. She always had the front door open for the kids, and her house was a safe house to go to and get candy and hang out and drink water and things like that when you're playing outside. So I just kind of developed that sense of mindset for myself and for our house. And so, the neighborhood kids probably use up a little bit more water than they should from the spigot outside, but it's okay. And so that led me to join the Parent Teacher Association, also known as PTA, at the school, just wanting to be a part of what was going on at my kids' school, and just wanting to understand more of how adults and parents serve the kids. And I found my place there. I found a place where I could more understand what teachers went through, what kids and families are going through, but also there was a lack of diversity. There was the need for advocacy. And so I settled there. And in 2015, Caring for Kids actually came to our school, Northfleet Elementary, our elementary school. And my principal invited us to join the partnership and invited our church to join the partnership. Really, she said, if you know anybody, let me know. And I knew some churches. And so that's how that happened. And we joined other faith partners and business leaders to circle around the school that we're at. And we had a great group of folks serving the school. And then in 2017, I reached out to Caring for Kids directly, and I said, hey, I just really love what you guys do. And if you got any room for me, I'd love to come work for you, or at least volunteer. And they had an opening that, hadn't been posted yet. So made it kind of easier for me because the Lord opened that door. And I was hired then. And so 17, I was only serving in Kansas City Public Schools. And then 17 and 18, I served, 18, I served Kansas City Public Schools and Grandview Public Schools. And then the next year we added Raytown. And then the following year I was identified as the executive director after Miss Nancy Mitchell retired.
That's a great story, Portia. I love the part about the neighborhood too. That's really important to Love KC and now in our merger with Unite KC, because we care so much about neighborhoods, and we see neighborhoods as like a microcosm of a city. If the neighborhoods are doing well and enough of them are, then your city is going to do well. But your city can't do well if the neighborhoods aren't doing well.
Right.
So I'm glad you've seen that for a long time, and the way you live your life evidences that. Tell us a little bit about where Caring for Kids is today. It's great to hear your part of the story, but tell us where's Caring for Kids finding success today? Where are some places where you still need some help?
Yeah. So those who've never heard of Caring for Kids, we were birthed out of a prayer movement back in 2011, became a 501c3 in 2013, serving Shawnee Mission and a couple of schools in Kansas City Public Schools. Today, we have 113 schools in our network. We are in 7 school districts: Kansas City Public Schools, Hickman Mills, Grandview, Raytown, Center, Hickman Mills, Kansas City, Kansas Public Schools, and Shawnee Mission. And then we have newly added charter schools to our network. So we have Brookside Charter, Crossroads, University Academy, Hope Leadership Academy, and Providence School of the Arts is our first private school ever to join our network. And And we're doing that work with over 411 community partners that are working collaboratively to serve our schools.
Oh my goodness, that's so great. And then how many church partners? So 411 is like the business professional, right? And then church partners, how many?
So of the 411, 168 of those partners are church partners.
That's amazing. I love it when the business community gets involved. Now, the church community really should lead the way because we have the mission in our heart. But I love it when businesses get involved and when people find a way to combine their work for God with their work for, just the work that they do for the community or for the city or for the corporation, whatever it is. So Porsche, that's such a great story. I love it. It's actually one of my favorite stories. I have the privilege of being involved with a lot of city leaders across the United States. I've met them over the years, probably a good 60 different people who lead different cities. And caring for kids is really at the top of the list nationally when it comes to effective ministries in the local schools. So I think you know that, but I don't know if our listeners know that. So I want them to know that what you're doing is remarkable. And we're grateful you're in Kansas City. Well, tell me a little bit I'm curious to know, because I think this happens to nearly everybody. We get some feelings in our heart about something that should be done. We're kind of weighing them. We're thinking about them. We're praying about them, maybe talking to them about friends. How do you discern what a calling is? People use the word calling sometimes, like I have a calling or a call from God to do X, Y, or Z. What kind of calling did you feel, and how did that happen for you?
Oh, what a loaded question. I think a calling is something that God not only places in your heart, but that desire is there regardless of the work that you do. My desire to advocate for children, I didn't really know that language for it. I didn't know those terms. I didn't know that it was justice and, I didn't know it was all of that. I just knew that God wired me to care deeply for children and care deeply for parents, maybe out of, first of all, seeking those relationships myself and having my own children. And, the community that it took to help me get where I am. But also, he will grow that seed inside of you, and he will give you opportunities, but also he will shut some doors to push you towards what he has for you. So one of the things I left out of my origin story of getting here is my other love for baking, and I. In my heart, in my mind, I thought I would open a bakery, and God completely just kind of shut that down to give me an open heart for allowing the possibility of something like caring for kids. I didn't know it was caring for kids, but something like caring for kids. Yeah. And then I just had to spend time asking him and seeking and talking to people that he put on my heart that I trust to help me walk through, the wilderness of it, and and be prayerful and waiting to hear from him, but to be pliable as soon as I hear what he's telling me to do, to be obedient and get about it. And so that's the thing about calling, is that when he clearly tells you what he has for you to do, then it's your responsibility to immediately answer. And that's not always easy, but that is our expectation as believers.
That's really good, Porsche. It sounds to me like it was first kind of general and maybe wide, and then it became more narrow and specific as God began to point out that, this is caring for kids that I'm directing you to.
Yeah. So the thing about that was I actually started at the school district level. One of my friends is a superintendent. And so I reached out to him directly and I said, do you have a job for me? Because I don't know why I thought it would be that easy. I was like, do you have a job for me? He's like, I wish you would have, talked to me a couple of days ago. I would have had a job for you. And then I said, well, what about caring for kids? I really like what they do. And he said, I think that's a great idea. I think that they align a lot with who I know you to be, the kind of person I know you to be, the things that you care about. And so I, you should try, you should reach out. So I reached out to one of the staff members, Terry Geenans, and it kind of started this, this journey.
That's awesome. I think that one of the phrases I've heard people use is a little bit of a holy discontent, that sometimes we feel like there's something more. And in this podcast, we're always encouraging people to live on mission, to be able to discern the gifts that God has given to them, and to realize that whatever the vocation is in life, they probably do have a calling, that there's a place that God has for them in the body of Christ that's going to make a difference in the world. And we need to lean into that and pay attention to these things that might be a holy discontent. And it can be a little disruptive in our life sometimes, because sometimes we think we might be going to use our skills to start a bakery.
Yeah.
And then God begins to kind of redirect our thoughts towards something that is in line with His purpose and timing.
Yeah, that I would say that happened to me. Or for me. I think it was more for me than to me. And in a beautiful way, I, was sitting with my husband, just having regular conversation. And he said, I think God has something else for you to do.
Wow, that's so cool.
And anybody who knows me, I was like, well, wait a minute. God didn't tell me that. I talk to God all the time. We have our own relationship. We talk all the time. He didn't say that to me. But, tongue in cheek, but I took that to heart.
Yeah.
I took that to prayer, well, Lord, are you using Stephen to, guide me in a way and, to bring something to me that I should consider? And the answer was yes. But then once again, I had to lay down, what I thought. I had to lay down what I thought I wanted earnestly, because I was successful. I had my cakes were in bakeries and Crown Center and all these places. And so I wasn't hard up, I was right. Feeling really good where I was. And I had to accept that I needed to lay that down, which was not easy.
Yeah. And even there, you're illustrating another point in finding God's will, is that sometimes there's different seasons for different things. God blessed you and gave you a talent that He was using, with your baking, but then there was a different season, and you're living in that season now. So my hope and prayer is that as people are listening, that every one of us is constantly kind of evaluating that, like, I know what I'm doing now, but is this all that you want me to do? Is there more, or is there something different? And that we have that surrendered attitude that you just talked about. Well, that leads me to the next question I'm thinking about is what do you feel like is a thing that kind of keeps you going every day? Like when you get out of bed and you have a drive to do your job, what is that? If you could explain that, what would it give us a phrase or a paragraph or something that kind of says, this is what gets you up out of bed and gets you going?
I think it's twofold. I think personally what gets me out of bed and gets me going is because I do believe that I'm doing my life's work. Who knows where this will take me? I often try to imagine myself doing something else and I can't think that far. And I'm sure I won't do this forever, but I know that I'm doing my life's work because on my worst day, I love advocating for children and families. I love talking about the importance of community in schools. I love inviting the church into that work, most of all, but also talking to, others, business and civic, nonprofit organizations, but just helping ministries navigate that brings me great joy and fulfillment. But most of all, I feel like I'm doing what God has called me to do. And every day is just not easy. The work of nonprofit is just not easy. But that is what gets me from meeting to meeting, from Zoom call to Zoom call, late nights and early mornings, moments when I can't, go to school functions with my kids because I've got to, make an appearance somewhere and maybe I don't really even want to do it or I don't care as much.
Right.
But I do believe that God opened this door for me. I do believe that I'm living with the missional cause of this work. And so that fills my cup when it's super dry, from just the cares of the world. And it fuels me to keep moving when I'm, just feel like, I don't know, it just keeps me going.
Well, it shows in the way you live your life. And there's that old joke that they call these not-for-profits for a reason because it's work and it is sacrificial, and sometimes it doesn't have the same reward that maybe a job in the world would have, with perks and all of the other things that come with it, bonuses. But we have a bonus that's in our soul, and one that's put up for us in heaven. When you think back on, and I don't mean this in the way that the world uses this word, but when you look back on what you've been able to be a part of from the beginning till now, what is it that you're really proud of, that you go, I'm super jazzed about that? And again, we're not thinking of pride in the sense that, oh, look at me. We're thinking of something that says, this brings me a lot of joy because I see the fruitfulness of it, or I see the benefit of it. So what is that for you?
I don't know that I ever expected to bring other school systems a part of this work. Initially, we only served traditional public school systems, and as the landscape of our city has changed, so has where our children learn.
True.
And I'll honestly tell you, Gary, it was 2021 in October. I will never forget. I was sitting in my office, and a counselor that was from a school that I trained, she had went to a charter school. And she contacted me, and it was out of the blue. I hadn't talked to her in like 2 years. And she goes, "Hey, I'm at this school and we need you guys." And I said, "Where are you? What are you talking about? I thought you were at that school." She's like, "No, I'm not there anymore. But I told them, caring for kids can help us." And I said, "Well, I don't really know how to say this, and I feel horrible saying this, but we don't serve your schools." And when it came out of my mouth, I had such, I still feel it. I had such grief.
Wow.
To turn somebody away, not because we didn't have the capacity or the money, but because we just didn't serve them. They just weren't a part of the people we served. And within 5 days, I got several calls.
Oh my goodness.
From schools. I'm like, I didn't even know that school existed.
Yeah.
And so, we started this exploratory traveling down, what would it take to serve just schools, period. Not, not public, not charter, not private, just schools.
Yeah.
And what kind of overhaul would that take in our organization? And it was a big one. It took a lot. It took a lot of thinking and a lot of, throwing things on the wall and it doesn't stick at all. Yeah. And, then it gets a little sticky, but it slides down and still falls to the ground. And it's a little slimy and it's like, oh, this is messy. This is not working. And God was just so gracious to us. He allowed people to come alongside of us, who helped us to ponder, who helped us to think it through, who dreamed with us, who walked it out with us, who funded our idea, who funded even us just dreaming about it and gave us, the funds that we needed to process it out. And Gary, not serving charter schools alone would eliminate service for 14,000 students in Kansas City.
Oh my goodness. That's a large number.
14,000 students if we didn't get this figured out. That's not counting small private schools that need support or larger private schools that want to learn how to work better together and all these different ways and facets, that people utilize our services. And when I put it down to that number, we've got to figure out how to serve these 14,000 students.
Yeah, right.
The lens changed.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't a novelty anymore.
Yeah.
And I am so grateful to God. If I have to hang my Caring for Kids hat today, that we were able to craft the pathway and get the door open. We piloted, during the 23-24 school year. It's been very successful. We've learned a lot. And so we are going to continue and expand our work in that community. And it's just been good. And it's allowed us to be a bridge where that tension lies in our community of this or that, to just say, listen, that is not our business. We are here to serve kids. We want to see all children. That's ALL, all caps, underscore, highlight, bold, all of that stuff. All the kids served. That's awesome. And we don't care what school they go to. If their principal will allow us to come in, if their superintendent will have us, we want to serve all kids. And we've been able to get into that space to do that. And it's just been a joy.
That is awesome. I love one of the things that happened in that whole thought process for you. You kind of went from what you thought you could do to what you felt like you should do, and there was a change. Like you started thinking about what the need was, not just what your capacity was. And then God gave you capacity to be able to meet that need. And I think for a lot of the people who are listening, as we think about what God's call is on our life, there's always, we feel the need to be reasonable. We feel the need to be, we don't want to overpromise and underdeliver. So we sometimes look at what our capacity is, and we want to be, writing checks we can pay. But every once in a while, God just says, no, this is about what needs to be done, not just about what you can do. And then he builds capacity or brings on other people or other donors or brings on partners and things like that. So I love it that God did that for you.
Yeah. And it's that Proverbs, 3, 5, and 6 of trust in him in all your ways and he'll direct your path. Oftentimes we don't take that into every space of our lives. True. And I remember every single time that I thought we were hitting a brick wall, he would just trust me. In all your ways, just trust me. I'll direct you. I'll open the door. Maybe the school, because we had a couple of times where we thought, oh, this school, they will be the ones. They will be the ones that will, and the door didn't open.
Yeah.
Or the principal changed, or the leadership, all these things. And then, but the ones that, it did open, some of them said, well, can we go a little bit slower than you guys would like to, or I just don't understand. And so we just trusted and submitted it all to him in prayer. And, I would just encourage anybody, don't separate or compartmentalize where you put your trust in him.
Yeah.
We have to trust him in all things, and that's hard because we like to, like you said, we like to say, hey, I'm not going to write checks I can't cash, and it's often easier to just say, well, I'll just do as much as I can do, instead of knowing that, he will give the increase. We talk about money, when we say those kind of things, we talk about money oftentimes, but we don't think about that increase of territory, the increase of relationships, the increase of, trust, equity. All these things are a part of trusting him and him increasing.
That's really good, Portia. So true. Well, on the opposite side of what makes you excited, what keeps you up at night? What are the things that really break your heart and keep you just really honing in on God to be able to solve problems that are bigger than you?
I think there are a couple of things. There's been a couple of times, Gary, where situations and things here in our city have literally almost taken me out the game. Like the amount of violence in our city, it just breaks my heart. Particularly not just because of where it happens, but the communities that is affected the most are communities that are already, disinvested communities, and but that pain is for others. Our kids are experiencing so many different things. We have a lot of kids experiencing suicide and mental health, stress and strain, and not being able to bounce back from different traumas and things that they have going on. And so those things really keep me up at night. But one that, might be more important to my work, that maybe doesn't keep many up at night, is the amount of kids, particularly in Missouri and Kansas and really nationwide, that struggle with reading.
Right.
It's really heartbreaking. It's really heartbreaking. And I heard a fellow in this work call it an epidemic. And I agree. And I don't think we treat it that way. Because if there was a worldwide epidemic, there'd be commercials, there'd be billboards, there'd be bumper stickers, there'd be t-shirts. But many of our kids are suffering silently, not knowing how to read, not knowing how to navigate through simple schoolwork each and every day. And to make matters worse, the school to prison pipeline says that students who can't read by third grade will be violent, will be homeless, will be victims, and all these things. And so they utilize those scores to know how many jail cells to build.
I've heard that. So sad.
And instead of using those funds to say, well, we've got to get these kids more reading support, more help, get more volunteers to support them. And so I'm constantly, praying and pondering, who else can we connect together? Who else can we bring to the table to have these conversations, to close the gaps, and help to get to lower these numbers of students who cannot read, and be more strategic and drill down a bit more on the support that they need. So I hold fast to knowing that God is able.
Yeah. Yeah.
He is able to do exceedingly and abundantly above we could ask or think, and according to his riches and glory. And so I hold fast to that, because I do know that he is able to provide, to give us the knowledge, the wisdom that we need to come up with viable solutions, to be a part of solutions. But it does, it really grieves my heart.
Yeah. You said something to me a week or two ago I just thought was so important for our friends to know about, when you talked about the number of kids that are willing to have a mentor, who need a mentor, and how that, this would directly affect the the thing that's keeping you up at night. If we could find adults willing to be a mentor and help a child read. What was that number that you talked about?
Yeah, so we learned of a statistic that said that over 400 students in Kansas City Public Schools ended the school year without mentors. And these are students who signed a permission slip, who said yes to having a caring adult hang out with them for 30 minutes a week to check on them, maybe read with them, make sure they're doing okay, check in on their, how their schoolwork's going and things like that. And so this school year, I'm hoping that we can do some strategic work around lowering that number. And then I met with, we are a partner with Lead to Read, and met with them last week, and they also needed 700 volunteers.
Wow.
And so we're also doing some strategic work to find ways that we can work together to close that gap. Because I just can't imagine. I can't imagine that there aren't 1,100 volunteers who are interested in serving. I can't imagine that there aren't 100 organizations that wouldn't mobilize their staff to go in and volunteer and help. Understanding that the conversation that we had with the executive director for Lead to Read is this: it's an investment.
Right.
It's an investment, and we all have to think about what we stand to lose and what we stand to gain.
Right.
And our time equity is needed. This is how you create healthy communities.
Right.
This is how you see transformation in community. This is how you see the gap close. Is to decide that I'm going to take a personal, a personal vow to do what I can do. That's all any of us can do, is what we have the capacity to do. Right. And I mentor myself. I would never ask anyone to do anything I'm unwilling to do. Every Tuesday from 10 to 10:30, I am unavailable. I am hanging out with my now 10th grade mentee, and we're talking and we're hanging out and we're checking in. We're doing new math, as the joke goes, and she may talk about something she's frustrated about, or we might talk about hair. I don't know, but I just, I told somebody else, I can't imagine my life without her.
Yeah.
I just
talking about just what you do for her, but what she does for you.
I love that little girl. She just lights up my life, and she's become an extension of our family. And I see her at school. I don't ask her to do something she's unable to do, or her family. We just meet, we hang out and we check in. And I'm telling you, the day that she was about to leave to go back to class, and she gave me a hug and she said, "I love you." And she just walked away.
Wow.
I could have been done for the rest of the day.
You melted.
I mean, I went to my car and I just kind of sat there like, what just happened to me?
Wow.
And she meant it.
Yeah.
She meant every word. Like I said, I have children. Yeah. There are other kids that I volunteer with, that I mentor. I work at the church and all these things. But to know that I consciously invested my time, and she really feels loved.
Yeah.
From me.
Right.
It's all worth it.
Oh, man. Well, tell us how people would get involved if they want to be a part of the 400 or the 700, or even more generally, while you're talking, talk about if they want to get involved with caring for kids in their church or as an individual. How could they do that?
Yeah, so there's a couple of different pathways. I think, wherever you live, as an individual, you don't have to go to a particular school system, school district. Like what you were talking about, right in your neighborhood, going to the school district's website, going down to the volunteer tab and doing the background check and asking them to connect you with the kid. This is a perfect time. It's really quiet. School hasn't started back yet. Can get you prepared. If you are a leader of a church, a business, a nonprofit, we would love to see you hang out with us for 30 minutes for a lunch and learn. We do those lunch and learns once a month, every first Wednesday of the month from 12 to 12:30. And it's non-committal. It's just a time, like I said, of hanging out, learning deeply about caring for kids, our origin of how we started, where we are today, the kind of work that we're doing, what it means to partner as an organization. And then if you're, interested in going deeper, we connect you with a school in a school district that you're interested in or one that we suggest. So we try to make it as simple as possible. It's a pretty clear line of engagement and we try to do it as quickly as possible so you can get to serving.
What's your website in case people don't know?
caringforkidskc.org.
Okay. For FOR or numeral 4?
FOR.
Good. Well, I hope that people who are thinking about what God wants them to do will take this to heart. When I think about, we are in direct contact with 1,500 churches. Surely we could find, 1,100 mentors. And some of those might also, be duplicates if you added both lists together.
Right.
There's business people who could encourage the people at their business to take time off from, work one time a week and go be a mentor. So lots of opportunity there. I want to close today, Porsche, with you talking about the circling schools in prayer effort. I know that we're about a little less than 30 days away from this, and that Love KC, Unite KC, and other networks, Pray KC, Olivia's network, Claim Your Campus, have just been promoting this. But we may reach some people that don't, or maybe aren't in those normal circles through this podcast. So talk a little bit about that and what will happen that day, and maybe some of the reason behind it, in case a person might even be in a different city and they would wonder, well, could I do that in my city?
Yeah. So Caring for Kids, as I said before, was birthed out of a prayer movement. So we've always had a time of prayer for schools each year before school start. I have been just praying about a way to increase that awareness around praying for schools. And God, through a friend of ours, introduced me to Olivia Williamson, who is a dear friend of mine. And she is a part of an organization, Claim Your Campus, where they educate students on how to pray on campus and claim their campus in prayer. And so God had given us actually the same vision to pray for schools last school year at the end of last school year, in May, in 23. And so in May, we had a goal to prayer walk 100 schools in one day, and God just blew us away. We prayer walked 109 schools, and then later we had a couple more that were claimed for a total of about 114 schools, and it was just a blessing. And went away, and we were really excited. And sometimes you kind of feel like, all right, that was great, and then you think you're moving on, and then God said, no, I've got more work for you to do. And so Olivia and I, we began praying, and we came back together. And I said, I think God wants us to double the number. And so we worked a little bit harder to get folks together. And I had this deep vision of seeing people from all over the city just gathering together to pray on behalf of the schools, and then going out and prayer walking. And so Hy-Vee Arena, their amazing staff. They waived so many things price wise and made it economical for us to host a prayer gathering there. Last August, and then the next day prayer walk schools, and we prayer walked 250 schools that day. And so you know, we want to double it again.
Right.
So this August the 24th from 9 to about 10:30, we will gather at Hy-Vee Arena once again to prayer, to gather together to pray and rally and, just pray over, for teachers and schools and everything. This year we're really excited. We'll have the chaplain from the Kansas City Chiefs will bring a short, encouraging word for us that morning. And we have a pretty amazing worship coming for us that morning. And then we will go immediately to swarm the city. Swarm the city and pray over 500 schools. So we need everybody's help. We need, folks in DeSoto and Piper and Baser and Liberty and Blue Springs. We need everybody to gather. We've got about 1,500 seats that we can fill in the Hy-Vee Arena to come together. But then we want to swarm those schools, just prayer walking around those schools and asking God's protection, asking His wisdom, His strength and His mercy, and serving kids this school year.
That's so great, Portia. I'm really excited to promote that with you and come support and be a part of that. I think you remember the story from last year that at Love KC, we were praying about the fall and about ways that we could serve our city. And I felt like God put the number 400 schools in my mind. And I don't want to throw my staff under the bus, but I will. I started sharing that number and they were just freaking out going, there's no way we could do that. It's just too big. And it is a big number. It's the kind of things we've already talked about on this podcast. And so I didn't want to just, if my staff was saying it's too big and, we should be careful about what we promise. I didn't want people to see us as just popping off with things that we can't do, I was willing to take the rest of that day to kind of weigh that number and pray for it. And I didn't know anybody else had this in their mind at all. And that particular day, I don't know if this is a wise thing. So if you're listening today, don't take this as gospel. But I was saying to God, okay, I'll pray till 5:00. I'm here in my office till 5. I was working at the Plex Pod. And I thought, I'm going to be here working. God, would you give me some kind of confirmation about this, or maybe I should listen to my staff. I don't want to be the kind of leader that doesn't listen, and I wasn't sure that I heard it from God or not, but it seemed like maybe I did. And after everybody else was gone, I was there by myself. Olivia called me and she was running an errand and she just felt prompted by God to call me. And so she started talking with excitement about the plans that you guys were making. And she had no idea that she was actually providing confirmation. Before 5:00, it was about 4:40 or so, that this was something that God wanted us to do. So I told my staff and they went, okay, like we're in, we'll join that. So we want to do everything we can to see this happen. We think it's so important in our city. It goes right along with you've said things that are just core to what we believe when we say that every person in the city needs to hear the good news of Jesus from a friend. And this is how it happens. It's every one of us taking responsibility, not just thinking somebody else will do it or my church will do it, but it's every one of us. So we could all pray for our neighborhood. We can prayer walk our neighborhood and the closest schools. There are 5 schools that are close to my neighborhood. And so I pray for those schools. I pray for Countryside and walk around it and pray. I go over to Indian Creek and Elementary and pray. And then I go over to Pioneer Trail. It's actually on my way back home. I go over to walk by Pioneer Trail and pray, go up to Olathe East. That's out of my way. But then I come back to Hope Academy, which is a preschool that's next to Hope Chapel's sanctuary. And so I pray for them. And I just think that when I do that, I'm thinking about teachers. I'm praying for parents. I'm praying for kids. I'm praying that they would find protection, that they would flourish in their work, that there would not be drug deals going on or sexting or, any of these other things that we know are part of our schools, and just praying that God would put his hand on that and bring light into darkness and truth into error, and that he would support the administrative people who are serving their schools so faithfully every day, and even the parents who come in and work and parents who come in and volunteer, all the different things that happen in the school. There's just a whole ecosystem that's all working there together to make schools what they are. And when we pray over that, I just think that God is honored and his will is accomplished, and the kids are protected at a level that they wouldn't be otherwise. And I don't know why we couldn't do that for every school in our city. There's probably 250,000 people in Kansas City who would call themselves Christ followers or more. So surely we can cover all these schools in prayer. But thank you for leading the charge.
Thank you. Thank you for the support and the prayers, and, just the acknowledgement that, that God is that big.
Yes.
He is that big. I remember when I went to the Hy-Vee Arena and I looked at it, I just sat there like, Lord, why am I even here? And I kept the meeting that I had, and it just looked so big. And I was just like, they're just going to think I'm crazy, and there were a couple people that were like, this is a little bit wild, but I'm gonna follow him and back you up, and I think so often we just forget how big God is. Right. We just forget that these are easy things for him. This is easy, as they say, it's light. That's light work, for God. That's light work. I mean, we're talking about, he can just say it and it's done.
Yes.
So this is light work, him orchestrating us having to have the same heart, him putting the same, dream in our hearts and in our minds is easy for him. And once again, it's about our obedience. It's about our obedience.
What needs do you have? Do you have a financial need still to fill? What do you need to make that day happen?
Oh, well, donations for the sound equipment would still be great. We're getting closer. So we're also still just looking for folks who are verbalizing that they want to partner with us, that they want to share with their networks. They do have, a perk of, they can put their logo on our website, on the landing page, and, we'll shout them out on our socials so that everyone in community knows that they're a part of the work. The main, for me, honestly, I feel like the main need is people claiming those campuses. That's my biggest desire, is churches, going to that landing page and letting us know, hey, we've got 3 or 4 schools, maybe 5 schools that we're going to prayer walk that day. Individuals saying, I've got, 3 schools in my neighborhood that I'm going to walk that day. That's really what we need. We need help getting that number to 500 or above. So that is, I would love to, say that it's financial and this and the other. Honestly, Gary, I'm not worried about that. God has covered us so well. Every other time, I'm not worried about the financial need. I am just inviting people to mobilize to be a part of this.
Yeah, that's exciting. And Portia, I know you know this, but I'll say this to people who are listening, that you can go to Caring for Kids and you can find the details for this. Mm-hmm. You can also go to Love KC's Living on Mission Facebook group. So on our group page, we've posted a couple different times. And when you follow the links, you can also find a way to sign up for the schools. Right. And part of this, we hope that you'll come on that day and bring some friends. Kids are welcome to come. Kids can go on the walk with you, or grandkids.
Yeah, it's a family thing. Right. It's a family thing. get the stroller, get the walking shoes,
Yep.
go to your kids' schools, go
Right.
to your preschool, go to the school that you graduated from, or, where your kids will go. I just talked to a friend, his kid is going to a certain school in the fall. That's the school he's prayer walking.
Yeah.
He's going to support as a new parent, new kindergarten parent. He knows what school his kid is going to, and he wants that school to be claimed in prayer.
Yeah. And then together we can claim all of them. We don't want to leave any schools out, but we can do it if we do it together. There's a phrase I like to say, I say it a lot. People may get tired of me saying it, but I think that we have to think about the things we can only do together. That there are things that alone we can never accomplish, but only together, can we do these kinds of things. And they're big, but it's going to build the kingdom of heaven, and it's also caring for the kids. I mean, it's taking care of what Jesus talked about was important to him. Let the little kids come to me, and don't forbid them not. So we want them to come. Well, Porsche, thank you for your time today. It's almost time for you to go see your mentoring student here. Look,
I won't see her today. It's summer, so she's she's on summer break. But I'm anxiously awaiting the first day of school so I can go and be with her again and hang out with her.
Well, this has been a delight. I always enjoy seeing you personally, and I'm glad that we can share you with the friends who follow the Blessed podcast. And as we wrap up today, I just want to encourage you to follow up on the things that God is speaking to your heart. As Porsche talked today, there's just really a great trail here of thoughts to follow the holy discontent, to believe that if God is giving you maybe a wide vision, that he might narrow it, to trust him for things that are bigger than you, to follow even when it's uncomfortable, and trust him, like Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, lean not on your own understanding, and all your ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your paths. So we're going to believe that for everyone listening today. Thanks for listening. Like, share, subscribe, and let's keep joining God where he's already at work. God bless you. Thank you, Porsche.
Thank you.
That's it for this episode of the Blessed Podcast. We hope this podcast informed and encouraged you. Remember to subscribe on your favorite format, iTunes, Google Play, or YouTube. If you want to see the interview on Zoom, hop over to our Love KC Living on Mission Facebook group. Have a blessed day.